Hey everyone, what's up Michigan? Welcome back to another episode of the State Champs Poolside podcast. My name is Lorne, plant executive producer of the State Champs Sports Network. I am joined each and every week, not just in the girls season, but also in the boys season, by the girls head coach at Bloomfield Hills High School. He's also heavily involved with a lot of things going on at the Michigan Interscholastic Swim Coaches Association. His name is David Zulkiewski. David, welcome.
Good to see you again. Great week going on here. A lot of league meets going on, and happy to have Andy here today to share some stuff about the end of the season with us.
Absolutely. The MHSAA is not just a partner in helping put on the program, but they also participate whenever we reach out, and we always appreciate that. Today we have Andrea Osters, and Andy, for those who, we try to familiarize a lot of people and put faces to names at the MHSAA. What I'd like you to do is, well, first off, welcome. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it very much. I think a lot of people in the swim community know how much you advocate for them and work hard for them. Just kind of explain what your role is at the Michigan High School Athletic Association as it pertains to boys and girls swimming.
Sure, happy to do that. I'm assistant director here. I handle, in addition to girls and boys swimming and diving, I have responsibilities in girls volleyball and girls softball. Also handle some of our interstate sanctioning and dabble a little bit in our marketing program. I've been here, like I said, for 20 years, and the last 6 of that as an assistant director. And swimming and diving, definitely a large portion of my responsibility here. One of my favorite sports, no doubt.
Just for a little background, because it's always fun for me to kind of learn more about people. What is your kind of your sports background, and how did you end up at the MHSAA?
Yeah, I started here as an intern straight out of college, and they just never let me leave.
Okay.
I fell in love with high school sports, specifically as a high school student, as they often do. Won a state championship in softball, and never really got over the feeling that happened that day, and wanted to provide that feeling for generations of kids to come. Win or lose, I think high school sports, I personally believe that it's where we build the best character in our youth. I'm really passionate about it, and I'm lucky enough to work in a place that really fosters that.
Absolutely, and it's interesting because 2022 is actually State Champs' 20th anniversary, so we are kind of simpatico when it comes to that, and so congratulations. 20 years is a big milestone wherever you are, and we're certainly have, it's been our thrill to have covered. In fact, one of the first things I did, not to get off on a tangent here, but one of the first things I did as a Cub reporter at State Champs back in fall of 2002 was cover, first big thing I did was cover the girls swim state finals in 2002. And for those of you who can remember that far back, that was and I went to the Division I final, so of course, that was during Ann Arbor Pioneers, just dominance in girls swimming. And that was the year of Kara Lynn Joyce. Kara Lynn Joyce literally blew it out of the water. And I was just so impressed at seeing someone dominate the way that they could, at the high school level. And obviously she went on to become an Olympian and all of that. So it was quite an introduction for me to the sport of high school swimming. I grew up in California. I was a football, soccer, baseball player. We don't have winter in LA, so soccer was a winter sport. So I was able to do those 3. So I was really impressed. That was kind of my first coming out party in celebrating swimming. And we've loved doing this podcast. And so before we get into what we want to get into, and just so you guys know what's coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about the UP boys and girls swim state finals, which just took place last weekend. We are going to talk about some, just different topics affecting the sport, things that the MHSAA, can comment on, things like the health of the sport and where things are going, things of that nature. And then later in the show, there was a meet that you can check out on the State Champs Network right right now that feature Brother Rice, Detroit Catholic Central, and Cranbrook. Big swim meet as we are, getting towards the finish line here, getting towards the state finals that will be coming up before you know it. That's all coming up later on the show. But first, Poolside is presented by Lawrence Technological University. I need to let you know that LTU offers over 24 varsity sports. They have athletic and academic scholarships available, and you can recruit yourself. It's a really cool tool. You just go to ltuathletics.com, click on Recruit Yourself. They've got over 24 NAIA varsity sports. No swimming yet, but hopefully that will be somewhere in the offering there soon, especially because the fact that so many programs seem to be dropping swimming at the collegiate level. Andy, we've talked a lot about that over the course, because it seems like a lot of the coaches we brought on were Michigan State alum, and David is an Eastern Michigan alum, and just not having these available anymore is really a sore spot, as it were. But again. You can recruit yourself at ltuathletics.com. Of course, Poolside's also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletics Association. One of the things we trumpet every week, Andy, is the need for officials. And, just if you want to just chime in I'll give you the platform for 30 seconds. If you just want to talk about the severity and need for the next generation of officials.
Yeah, I think, Lorne, for the past decade or so, you've heard this from really every corner of our office. What was probably a little stepping stone, a small little kind of bump in the road for us, has become the primary focus of almost everything we do. It is absolutely, at this point, we're at a crisis level, especially in sports like basketball, sports like hockey, sports like wrestling, softball and baseball. Absolutely, we've seen dramatic decline in the number of individuals who not only are registering for the first time, but we're seeing tons of officials leave the ranks. And that's resulting in games being canceled. So I think that if that isn't indicative of the type of problem that we have, we need more people to get in uniform and officiate the games they love to watch. It's almost a thankless job. You're expected to be perfect the moment you step onto the court or onto the side of the deck. But I think there's a lot of reward, and there's certainly money to be made there too. So we're absolutely looking for people to do that job for us. Get in touch with our office if you'd like to sign up.
Absolutely. You can go to MHSAA.com. There's a referee tab or officials tab that you can click, and it will guide you to wherever you need to be. I think a lot of people, maybe they even have, thoughts like, okay, maybe this would be something I'd like to entertain, but, think like, oh, it's going to take forever to be certified, and I'm going to have to go to all these clinics and all that. But that really just isn't the case. Right?
It's not. It's incredibly easy to sign up. We have removed most of the barriers that folks told us were preventing them from starting the process. We work really hard to connect new officials with other officials so that they feel immediately like part of a community, so they have a resource that they can connect with after games or before games to talk about things in whatever sport you're interested in. And we also offer discounts for those that want to get involved and then officiate multiple sports. There's all sorts of opportunity for scholarship, recognition. This is a job that I really think that the next generation of kids that are leaving high school, we're going to need them to get into this quickly.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that there's a trend now that we're seeing in business, in general, where a lot of people don't really are too excited. Maybe this next generation of the workforce that's coming up isn't too excited about just doing a 9-to-5 where they're going to be in an office all day, whatever. They want to do a variety of things, and certainly with the job market the way it is, you can instead of having one full-time, have several part-time jobs, and that's what officiating is. It's a great opportunity to make some money. You can work in your region. It's not like you're gonna have to drive all over the place, and things can just work out the way they need to work out. And so don't worry about it if I blip in and out of the screen here. We're not being taken over by aliens or anything of that nature. It's just the way it works here. But anyway, so yes, the need is there, guys. Again, look into it. Do yourself a favor. Look into it. and see what it's all about. If you have questions, the MHSAA will answer those, and then you can make an educated decision. Okay, a couple more quick sponsors. Poolside is also brought to you by a big awards show that's coming up that we're involved with every year. It's going to be on June 6th in downtown Detroit. It's at the Detroit Athletic Club, and they've been doing this for 25 years now. It's the Detroit Athletic Club Foundation's Male and Female Athlete of the Year Awards, kind of very similar to the program that the MHSAA does with the scholar athlete. This looks more than just the athlete who is at the top of their game, which of course is kind of a priority in terms of this award, but you need to have good grades. You need to have represented some citizenship, some leadership within your school and your community. But we are looking for those who are first team all-state athletes, those types of individuals. And if you're a school, if you're an AD that's watching right now, it's real simple. You just go to dacathleteoftheyear.com. There's an application there. You download it, you fill it out, you send it in. The one thing about these awards is you can't be nominated unless you apply. And so the process has been a little slower this year than most years. Usually we're getting in excess of 70, 80 applications. We haven't been receiving them quite like we want. So you've got one more week to get those applications in, and that way you can be considered. And it truly is a great way that we celebrate you, the seniors who are moving on to the next level or whatever the choice is, and moving on to great institutions of higher learning. We get a chance to celebrate you in a very red carpet kind of way. So make sure you go in and apply for the award. So we'll get to some more sponsors later. I want to get to the program. Andrea Osters is joining us here on Poolside, and of course David Zulkiewski is with us as well. Let's quickly just start with a little bit about what took place up north. I feel like the UP never gets enough pub as it should here, and we're certainly guilty of that sometimes when we're not talking on this program enough about what's going on up in the Great White North, especially this time of year. But indoors at the natatoriums in the UP, they recently had the Upper Peninsula boys and swimming. They both take place during the winter up in the UP. And it looked like Marquette ate their Wheaties, both on the boys and girls side, before they came to perform this, because it was a clean sweep for them. Andrea, your quick thoughts on what took place.
Yeah, obviously Marquette hosts the event for us. There are 10 schools that sponsor boys and girls swimming and diving above the bridge. We're a really unique state in that we've got these two very separate, very disparate types of final championship meets. Obviously, the Lower Peninsula, we've got anywhere from 250 to 270 schools that sponsor varsity swimming and diving. But up north, it's just 10. And they all go to Marquette. Marquette has graciously hosted that event for us for a long, long time. And now Marquette's programs are certainly the most elite, at least they are this year. The boys went back to back and I think they won every event in the boys finals, which is almost unheard of, crazy. The girls side, I don't know if Marquette was the favorite going in, but they came ready. I don't know if David wants to comment on any of those remarkable performances, but we were really pleased with the outcomes.
Yeah, a real dominant performance by Marquette. I know MHSAA posted a little story there about 20 years of dominance, and they certainly put up some really good swims. You had Andrew King, as I was going through the results, wins the 100 back from Marquette, part of their 4-free relay. I think he took third in the 200 freestyle. Just real impressive swims all the way around for him, winning by 2-3 seconds in his events in the 100 back there. On the girls' side, though, the big one, we had one state record fall this year, which was great. Adelaide McRoberts out of Kingsford. She breaks the 50 free state record up there in the UP. And she actually had an interesting combination. Right now, a lot of coaches are figuring out their league meet lineups and their state meet lineups. And you try to give kids a little bit of rest between individual events. And you try to space out your relays. You try to find that best combination. This young lady steps up. She swims a 200 IM in the 50 free back-to-back events. So she probably had less than 10 minutes of time between her two events and did an outstanding job, won both of them, and then set the state record in the 50 there for the UP. So, yeah, really great swimming. And from our side on MISCA, a lot more contributions and membership coming from our UP coaches. We see a lot of our UP teams getting recognized now for academic all-state. And even a few years ago, we had a young man that was really close to even making our dream team. So great to see those performances and those teams jumping up now and starting to get that recognition that they deserve. I don't know how they handle it with snow days when I see 122 inches of snow this winter in Munising, and how these guys and gals get to practice every day. But hats off to them for putting in the time and just a great state meet all the way around.
Snowmobiles. That's how they get to and from, snowmobiles. I don't know, or maybe a dog sled. I have no idea otherwise how they're getting to where they knew. I do want to say that Houghton's Quinn Aho claimed the victory in diving, so Marquette won all the swimming events, but took second, third, and fourth in diving. But the young man from Houghton there was able to claim the diving state championship, so congratulations to him. And Marquette on the girls' side did win 13 points ahead of last year's champion, Sault Ste. Marie. So we want to congratulate them on a great meet, and we want to do some more UP coverage over the years here on Poolside and make sure that we recognize what's going on up there. And maybe sometime we can have them come down. We can have some sort of MISCA, UP LP kind of competition or something, whatever. We'll see. We'll just put it in the hopper there and see if we can make that happen. So once again, we're thrilled to be joined by Andrea Osters from the MHSAA here on Poolside. We want to get into some different topics regarding swimming. And David sent me some notes too on kind of what you wanted to talk about, what was good. And one thing that David mentioned that I think we should do right off the top, an update on the COVID protocols as we get ready for diving regionals and the state meet.
Sure. Great question, and certainly less of a concern this winter than it was last winter and the winter before that, which we just don't speak of anymore in our office.
That's right.
But COVID protocols certainly will still be part of winter tournaments. I think that our staff is doing our best to communicate that across all of our tournament sports, that the expectation for spectators, they should expect to be masked at most of our events. As we were talking about before the show, we see right now, county by county, kind of across the state, it seems like every week something's getting relaxed as we see case numbers just start to plunge here after the Omicron variant. But I think that the expectation, you don't want to show up someplace that's an hour and a half away from your house without a mask. Obviously, I think that would be a smart decision to bring it with you. Whether you have to wear it or not, that's by and large a venue by venue decision. That is not something that our staff is deciding. That's something that we're beholden to with our hosts. And swimming and diving is no different. At this point, I know that you're going to need to wear a mask at Oakland. You're going to need to wear a mask at Calvin. And Holland right now is kind of 50-50. Not sure where that's going to end up. But again, the expectation, I think, is that you're going to have to wear it if you're not in the water actively swimming. As far as capacity restrictions, we will have some of those in place at Division 1 and Division 3. Division 2, we have a capacity restriction, but we almost never reach it at Oakland. But for Divisions 1 and 3, so that's Calvin and Holland, we will be selling 2 tickets per qualified athlete. So that's the exact same protocol that we applied during the girls' season. It'll be applied again for the boys. We understand that that's difficult. It's not ideal. And just between us three and everybody else listening, if there's somebody out there who wants to build a large pool that has a separate diving well and about 1,000 seats, if you build it, we will come.
There you go.
All that said, we're somewhat limited. We only have a few universities who are interested in hosting, and a few private pools like Holland that are interested in hosting our events. So we're kind of I don't know what the right word is there, but we're happy with our sites. They each present some unique challenges for us, and we're really excited to be back at those 3 pools. Fast water for our kids to swim in. Really, really great personnel that handle all of our on-deck operations, and I think that's going to be a smooth weekend in 2 weeks.
All right, great. I want to ask you next about participation and the numbers. And David actually have a good question on growth. But before he asks that, just where do you see the participation numbers as it relates to boys swimming?
Sure. I'll actually speak about boys, girls, and middle school, if that's
Oh,
all
okay.
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the staff responsibilities, obviously, is to every year monitor numbers as far as participants, number of actual participants that are participating in that sport at the varsity level, and then the number of schools that are sponsoring teams. We look at every single one of our 28 championship sports with a fine eye every March. Swimming and diving, we're lucky. We have been holding pretty steady. For the last 5 years in the girls' programs, we have a little over 5,200 athletes that compete in the Lower Peninsula. At the boys' side, it's a little bit less. And we kind of throw out the 2020-21 numbers because COVID-19 wasn't kind to us when it came to data collection. So if you look at total number of boys participants, we're right around 5,000. And that's year to year, and we don't see a whole lot of growth, but we don't see things that are lagging behind where we would like to see them. So very pleased with our current varsity numbers across the high school spectrum. Middle school, it feels like middle school swimming has become where most schools look to get kids involved in their first experience with school sports. This is a great spot for kids to connect with their community in those places that have pools, especially the middle school recreational type pools. This is a great way for kids to start to get involved in school sports. And obviously there's a safety component there, which we're always pushing as well. Great place for kids to, in some cases, learn to swim. So we're really happy with the middle school growth, and I think that that's probably going to, in the next coming years, feed higher numbers at the varsity level.
With that in mind, we talk about this a lot at MISCA. We run our MISCA invite to, for our middle school kids and trying to push those numbers. Seasons are, at different times of the year, depending on what the districts and the areas can do. But, one topic that came up, and Andy, if you could, offer some advice or thoughts is, what resources or ideas does your office, does the MHSAA look at to try to spark interest in some more sports, especially in some areas where, pool's pretty expensive and they've either had to shut down or limit the use of the pool. So, what are you guys suggesting to us that we can do to get that interest up?
That's a good question. And I think, again, across all of our sports, that's something that every sport asks our office. What are you doing to grow softball? What are you doing to get those new emerging sports that aren't tournament ready yet? What about water polo? What about equestrian? We get all sorts of questions like that.
Oh, yeah.
So I think everybody wants their piece of the pie. And unfortunately, our kids' time has never had a higher price point or value dollar-wise on it. Our kids are busier than ever. So getting them, here's my advice is getting them passionate and interested earlier rather than later is the key to them investing in their school community and wanting to play school sports versus getting pulled to that non-school kind of atmosphere. And I know swimming is unique in that a lot of our swimmers who compete at the high school level, at least, are also swimming some sort of club. That's typically what they're doing. And that's not totally unique to swimming, but certainly as an individual sport, that's something that we certainly look at. As far as growing a middle school program, I think having that one person who's going to advocate in your community for and push for administration to devote not only dollars, but a head coach that really cares and a head coach that's willing to spend a lot of time in your school buildings finding kids to complete those teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say one great example of, sports that have persevered, and this will be a two-parter, is, the resiliency of girls' sports in some areas. And just in a few weeks, I'm going to be covering and filming the first girls wrestling state finals that are sanctioned by the MHSAA. It's interesting. I did a story a couple of years ago. I went to the quote-unquote girls state championships that they had, which the MHSAA did send officials to and all that. So, it was something that was totally legit. And, the participation was crazy. It was amazing. This was, just before COVID. And it was really an exciting event that I was able to attend. And here we are a couple of years later, which they had hoped for participating in MHSAA sanctioned sports. I know that, it wasn't that long ago that lacrosse was a sport that was fighting to get in and finally did around 2005 or whatever it was. And then you've got other sports, that are on the fringe. Girls hockey is something that I know they want to, eventually be able to jump into the fray. So, go ahead.
And a lot of questions that our office fields are, well, how do we get our emerging sport to that threshold where the MHSA would consider sponsoring a varsity tournament, a state championship? And the answer is that if 64 member schools are sponsoring that sport at the varsity level, then our board representative council would look at it. Demonstrated growth. So if you look at a sport like water polo, we have about 40 schools that sponsor water polo. That number hasn't really moved. That number is staying right where it is, and that number has been there for a long time. If you look at a sport like boys volleyball, that has seen tremendous growth in the last 3 years. That's something we're monitoring really closely. But that kind of gives you an example of what we're looking for administratively when we look at new sports that we might consider hosting tournaments for.
Yeah, and David sent a really good question to me that I'll just ask on his behalf. But it works in this same vein is busy lifestyles, jam-packed schedules, sports and extracurriculars. What advice do you have to athletes and coaches regarding that? Because it seems like, again, time is somehow getting away from us more, that maybe there's not as much participation as there used to be.
I mean, I can speak on this first, and then certainly David, who is a current coach and understands our current athlete better than I do. But as a former coach, I know that one of the things that we're always pushing is not only multi-sport participation, but balance. Kids need to be students first, and they should be given, I firmly believe they should be given breaks between seasons. Time to rest, reflect, reset. And I think that we have, culturally an issue right now in youth sports where adults have gotten so involved, engaged, that they forget that this is all about play. This is about kids making friends. This is about building good children who are going to become better adults. It's not about wins and losses or even X's and O's. Yes, it's important to teach part of the game, but I really believe that kids do this because what they tell us, they do this because it's fun. And when it's not fun, then we start to see the burnout, then we start to see the injuries, then we start to see kids not wanting to go to practice, things like that. And I think if you're starting to see that, then you've got to really look at your programs and say, all right, what do we need to do here to bring the fun back, to make sure that this is still really play for our kids?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see it on a day-to-day basis. If practice isn't done by 5:15 or 5:30, I know kids have got to go because there's such a busy lifestyle. We've got tutoring. We have kids doing other activities. We have so many things going on in the building. It makes it tough. We try to help our kids. We try to educate them the best we can, right? But yeah, at times, whether it be the adults running the other activities or parents or whatever it might be. I mean, the kids have so many interests. We want to let them pursue it, but that's a battle we deal with every single day with our team and our school. So.
Yep, exactly. So, we just got to find the time because, again, for me personally, and this is, again, why I have been with State Champs for as long as I have. And I think, Andy, you said the same thing earlier, is that, you just love it, and you love being involved with high school sports. It's great celebrating it. It was the biggest thing in my life, when I was doing it. And, I had an injury and unfortunately wasn't able to compete at the collegiate level. And so, I still have such great memories. And, again, we're seeing this in high school hockey, where we're getting much more participation now from guys who normally would have just gone to the club level or the AAA level, whatever it be, and because they want to experience it with their friends, they want to play with their friends, and the competitive level now has grown to where you can still have great opportunities after high school. If you're good enough, those programs are going to find you so that you will be given opportunities to play at the next level. So let's keep playing. And Andy, I appreciate your time coming on to the show today. It's been great. I want to ask you one last thing. Because this is, again, something that state champs and the MHSAA are kind of celebrating at the same time. State champs, we started in the fall. It was something we just felt really needed to be done. And so we started what's called State Champs W, which is State Champs Women. And so we have a website now, statechampsw.com. So all of our female athlete coverage, all of our games go there, and our social media channels. We've got dedicated content now. It's all done by the women of State Champs, the ones who work here. They're the ones who work on our State Champs W programming, and we've got all kinds of good stuff that we've got in the hopper, and it just happens to coincide with Title IX being 50 this year. And so, your thoughts on where the level of, even though this is a boys swimming show, since I have you here, the level of girls sports and what you've seen, the explosion of participation and excellence over the last 2 decades.
Oh man, I don't even know where to start, other than I think I am sitting here today talking to you because of Title IX, and because I was given opportunities even 20 years ago that people 40 years ago, 50 years ago, I should say 51 years ago,
yes,
didn't have. And I think it is a milestone worth celebrating. Certainly, we still see a great disparity, especially in professional avocation. Not necessarily participation numbers anymore, because our girls in some sports outpace the boys. But in furthering girls being interested and women being interested in sports, I think that's our next real challenge, is making sure that girls know that they have just as much opportunity to work in sports, to continue to play in sports as a young boy. And that certainly has affected and impacted my life directly, knowing that this was something I was passionate about and wanted to apply myself to. I have a daughter myself, and that's something that certainly I hope to instill in her as well. But really appreciate State Champs doing that. It's an important thing that we continue to move that needle. And just because the legislation is 50 doesn't mean the work is done.
There you go. All right, just getting started. Where are you going to be at any of the state championships for swimming?
Yeah, so great question, Lorne. I never get to go to any of the girls' championships because I'm at girls' volleyball that weekend. But I do watch the live streams, which all of our boys' meets will also be live streamed. I'm planning to hit all 3. So I think I'm going to be at Oakland on Friday for prelims, and then I'll hit the West Side for Saturday. I'm excited to see some great swims.
Okay, fantastic. I will be filming. I'll be Saturday at Oakland, so I won't see you, but I'll be there. Yeah, exactly. But I will see David, and we're going to try and do some stuff while we're there. So all very exciting. And thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Really enjoyed it. Thanks, Lorne. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, you got it. All right, so once again, we thank the MHSAA's Andy Osters for coming on. That was great. So before we finish up, we do have a little bit more business we want to get to, but I do want to say, hey, a couple more sponsors to recognize. The Michigan Army National Guard is the official military outlet of the MHSAA. And also we want to give a shout out to the Detroit Medical Center's physical therapy and sports medicine professionals. They've been a partner with State Champs now for a couple of years, and we put together these Game Changers segments. They're really great. You can go on the network, on State Champs Michigan social media channels, or you can check them out on the website. And they're just kind of like quick hitters, like 2 minutes, but really great insight. Laura Ramus has worked with the DMC for years. She's a physical trainer with the WNBA, and she's got all these great, kind of just tools and tips on, to do some certain stretches properly or to increase your strength, and they're really great. Anyway, check them out and enjoy them. So one more sponsor and a new sponsor to the show is the Goodman Acker Law Firm. We appreciate them coming on board. If you have the most difficult times of your life is if it happens to be in litigation at Goodman Acker. You work with the same attorney and team the entire length of your case. They're going to fight for you just like they would a member of their own family. They're experienced, ethical, and aggressive. Mention you heard about Goodman Acker on State Champs, and they'll provide you a free assessment of your case. So they'll just take a look at it and let you know what they think. Goodman Acker, good decision. Call 1-800-TRUSTED. And we do thank all our partners in sponsoring the Poolside podcast. And so with David, we had an interesting, like you said, there's sometimes they got to cram these in. So we had 3 schools participating on Tuesday at a swim meet that we covered featuring Detroit Catholic Central, Birmingham Brother Rice, and Cranbrook.
Yeah, great meet. Yeah, I always like running double duels. Yeah, I think it's good for the kids. Sometimes, like we talked about, it's a scheduling thing, trying to find, pool space, for our private schools. But on the competition level, it's such a great experience for these kids because you're running multiple heats of stuff like you will at a league meet or a state meet. You've got kids from both sides on either end. And in the Catholic League, a lot of great competition. And CC, quite a bit of depth there, a little too much for Brother Rice and Cranbrook. So, Detroit Catholic Central comes out on top. But right from the get-go, the other night, medley relay, hands down, probably one of the better races. Cranbrook squeaks out a 0.2 of a second win over Brother Rice. And then CC's, about 4 seconds back after that. But way to start off the meet. I got to imagine these boys, getting ready for league meet. They go a week after all the public schools. So they're looking for one big spark here, and what a great way to get it going there with the medley relay. I thought they, all the splits all the way around just look really good for Cranbrook and Brother Rice. In diving, you had 2 young men, and I'm pulling up my notes here. I'm jumping around, but
yeah, go ahead.
No, we had Jason Purr from CC and Edward St. Amour from Brother Rice. You watch some of their highlights, and each of them has some real unique dives, some strengths in some areas, and they were kind of going back and forth all night. But Jason pulls out that win by about 20 points, so a few points here and there on each dive pulled him ahead. They actually, when everybody's watching this, Catholic League diving will have already have taken place. So I'd encourage everybody to go back and take a look at Catholic League diving and see how those two did, because they dove against each other, and then just a few days later they had league meet. So great job for those guys. And I think the best individual race of the night, 100 freestyle, 1st through 4th place. Connor Kulka from Brother Rice goes 49.5, winning the 100 free. But then, less than just an arm's touch away, you got Robert Hand and Alex Lampe from Catholic Central. And then Luke Landry from Cranbrook is in there as well. All 4 guys, about a second and a half, really good swims there for them. Again, late season double dual meet, and they've got an extra week here before leagues, but great for them. It should be a great meet coming up here in a couple weeks. I think they're back at the same pool. I think they're at Waterford again, just like their dual meet last night, and looking forward to a great league meet with the Catholic League boys for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is great. You've got very proud programs who are going to get themselves fired up, and they know that, hey, it's the rubber meets the road right now as we get into, the final weeks, and, everything, every meet you should just take as if it is the state meet, in a way, so that you're ready to go and that you can step up to the competition when it calls for it. So, you could check out those clips. They're up at statechampsnetwork.com. Just go to our social media channels. There'll be clips, individual race highlights of each one of those that took place. And again, State Champs is getting out there and getting some swimming coverage, and that was a good one for you to check out for the swim community. So, what's coming up for you? In the swim community in general, as we kind of start to wind things down?
We got a lot coming up here. OA championships are going on as we're recording, as well as KLAA and all those other teams in leagues. So we'll start looking at realignment for next year. We're also starting to crunch numbers already, looking at Oakland County qualifying times. So that'll kind of take a little bit of our time here the next few weeks. I'm really looking forward to heading over to Oakland to catch the boys D2 state championships here in a couple weeks. You and I will do some work, and looking forward to catching up with Andy and seeing some fast swimming there. And then after that, we really go into a lot of postseason work, and starting to look at state cuts and locations for next year's meets. I mean, it really doesn't slow down too much for us, and we try to get a lot out of the way before the spring hits, because a lot of our coaches are going to jump into their spring clubs, their outdoor teams. My little guys at home are getting ready for spring swimming as well. So yeah, there's a lot here in March for us, and then we'll shut it down and get ready for August.
Right on. For the layman who doesn't understand like what realignment means, mm-hmm. what's that process and what takes place? Every
league's a little different. KLAA, that'd be a fun one maybe for a topic, how they realign. But in the OAA, we've got 3 leagues, so we take all 3 of them. And after the meet tonight, I'll get all the numbers. I'll put all the results in. And we take all the seniors out, and we rescore the meet as a big, massive, like mythical OAA meet. And we look at strength of returning athletes. And then that'll give us a starting point for our coaches to start looking at. The OAA does realign every year. I know some of our leagues don't realign. And then you've got one like the KLAA where they look at their league meet as the dual meet season goes on. They look at how the season's going before they set up their league meet, which is pretty interesting. So realignment just gives us a chance to move some of those teams up that have been very successful and make some adjustments for some of those teams that maybe have lost some athletes. And some of that's as easy as just a conversation, but swimming and diving too, but swimming on another level is so great because we can quantify those numbers. And, we all swim the same size pool. We all have the same clock running. There's nothing subjective about it. Everything's, pretty set up. Your 22-second 50 free is 22 seconds in any pool. So that helps us out.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think people think like, I go to North Farmington or whatever, and so I'm going to be in the OAA, like they're in the OAA red in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Yet in other sports they could be in the OAA white or whatever. Just depends. And I love that. Again, for people to understand that there is, they try to look at the competitive level so that each division is representative of that kind of skill level to the best that they can. And so it's just not, across the board, just because in Clarkston football is so good doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be at that level in every sport, right?
Absolutely. And it's important, right? Because you have some programs and schools that are known for a certain sport, and even size of the schools. Look at Seaholm and Groves. They're Division II schools, but they're undoubtedly, some of the better swim programs across the state. Look at EGR. They win all these state championships. They can compete at a D1 level. So, I think it's great that we can sit down at a league level every year, and we're not worried about how many kids are in your school, and we can help you out. You graduate a lot of seniors. We can make an adjustment for you. And ultimately, it's to give the best competitive experience for all the kids. I mean, that's the number one thing for us.
Yep. Okay. So once again, another great show. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. It was a good conversation. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for participating in this particular show. We thank all of our sponsors for being a part of Poolside. And we'll get together and do this again next week. So for David, my name is Lorne. And thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of State Champs Michigan's Poolside Podcast.